Hello there, cats and kittens. I missed you so much. Today I come in with a new video that is a little bit different than I usually record. This video, or multiple videos, I guess it's gonna be a long one, so I might cut it in different segments. It's gonna be the story so far of Dragon Age, where I'm going to cover the main story of the three games: Dragon Age Origins, Dragon Age 2, and Dragon Age Inquisition. DLC is included, so it's gonna be a little bit long one, especially the Dragon Age Origins have this huge segment that's just gonna be the origins of your warden character. Dragon Age Origins gives you the very unique opportunity to start with a certain background story that depends on your race or on your class in case of the mage, and it's really interesting, so I cannot wait to get into it. Just a reminder that's gonna be major spoilers for everything. Everything Dragon Age is gonna be spoiled here. So if you want to play the games and somehow you stayed unspoiled for this long and you want to dive into it on your own, stop the video, go play the games, and get your heart broken and come back here, because that's what Bioware does. It breaks your heart. Alright, to start with the Dragon Age Origins, the game gives you the option to start with a certain background. You have 6 backgrounds to choose from. 5 of these backgrounds are based on your race, and 1 of them is based on your class, what kind of player character you are gonna be playing. You could choose one of 3 playable races in this game: dwarf, human, or an elf. If you play a dwarf, and because dwarves do not have magic, you can either start with a dwarven commoner or a dwarven noble. If you start as a dwarven commoner, which is by far the poorest one of the origins, because you start as a castless one from Dusttown, from Orzammar, which is the worst place anyone could ever live in. You start there. Your last name is going to be Broska. You choose the first name and your last name is gonna be Broska. You have a sister named Rika and a drunken mother who is named Kala Broska. You start the adventure talking to your sister Rika, and you get a little bit of exposition here. She tells you where you're from, what about Dusttown, what your life is like, and she tells you a very interesting story that she found a noble man that is able to be her lover, and if she managed to birth a child for this nobleman that we don't know who he is, she could, if this child becomes a male like his father, she could actually live among the noble people. She tells you that a crime lord called Berat he's actually pimping her out to this nobleman, and you are working for this Berat as well. You are running some errands for him here and there. You are doing this, you are doing that. Once you go outside, you are united with your friend Leska. He tells you about the job that you have to shake someone who actually cheated Berat in some lyrium, and you go to this guy one way or another. It's your choice. You kill him, you let him go, you steal the stuff from him, it doesn't matter. You get the stuff and you have a choice here. You could sell the stuff and take the money for yourself, but Berat will be able to know that you did so, or you could take the lyrium and give it to Berat. Once you go there, you give the stuff to him. He tells you that he has another job for you. The other job is to go to the proving and drug one of the warriors' drink so the other one could win, and his ending to this is that he betted on the other one and he wants the other one to really win so he could actually win lots of money. You accept, you go into the proving, you try to find the one that you are supposed to be helping out that he could win, and you find out that he is blackout drunk. He cannot see one, he is just passed out on the floor. And because you are really afraid of what Berat might actually do, you decide that you are going to don his armor, go outside, fight in his place, and actually win the proving, and this way Berat will still get his money. You do this, you don his armor, you cover your head with the helmet, just I was playing with a mod here, that's why the helmet is showing my face, but it shouldn't show your face because the helmet will hide. No one will actually know who you are, especially that castless people are not allowed to fight in the proving. So you have to hide your face, you go outside, you fight the fights, you win them all. Now everyone goes like, oh, okay. And then once everyone is cheering for you, and there is a Grey Warden over there. Oh my god, who is this Grey Warden? He is here to recruit one of the best fighters of the Dwarven people into the ranks of the Grey Wardens. You see, his name is Duncan, and again, it's a mod that he's wearing the Grey Warden armor. In the vanilla game, he's just wearing his robes. Anyway, he sees you and he sees how you fight, but once you win the last fight and you're actually celebrating, out comes the real fighter that you actually took his place. He comes out, he tells you who you are, and everyone goes like, oh my god, then who is this one who defeated all the champions of the arena? And they force you to take off your helmet, they see the stamp on your face, and they know that you are castless, which is like one of the highest insult you could make to the Dwarven people. Eventually, they actually try to apprehend you, but Berat steps in, takes you as a prisoner because now you cost him a lot of money, because now all the fights have been rendered void and he cannot actually get his money and he lost lots of it, so he wants to punish you. He throws you in jail, you and Leska, and eventually one way or another you escape, you come out and you eventually kill Berat and come out of his shop with all the guards standing ready, just ready to take you out and throw you in jail. But steps in the warden Duncan, who says that he have seen how much or how good you are in fighting and you would actually make a very good addition to the Grey Wardens. He offers you an invitation and you actually accept it or not, but he conscripted you. You go in there and you go live with him, leave Orzammar, and become a Grey Warden. The second origin that you could choose is being a Dwarven noble. As a Dwarven noble, you learn that you are the second child of King Idouken, and then you learn that you are about to be the commander of all the fighters in Orzammar. As I said, you are the second child of this king. Above you is Prince Tryon, who is the crown prince, who's gonna be the king after your father. And beneath you is your little brother Balin. You have some quips with Gorim that you choose what kind of relationship you have with him, but he tells you that you can go to the coronation right now, or you could actually go to the proving and watch some fighters fight. If you go to the proving and watch some fighters fight, you could actually choose that I want to play in the proving, and you do, and you win or you lose or however you play. Once you come out, you get an introduction to your brother Tryon, who is absolutely an ass. He is really rude to you, but he's like, I'm gonna be king, blah blah blah. And Balin is actually very nice to you and very sweet and very like brotherly to you. Eventually you have to go to the feast where you have to be the commander, officially the commander. You get some quips with these people here and there, you could mingle around, but you notice there's a human in there. And you approach this human and ask him who he is, and lo and behold, it's Duncan the Grey Warden. He is here because he is looking for a recruit for the Grey Wardens. You go there, you ask him about the Grey Wardens, you could actually pick from one of many choices. You could tell him like, I would like to be a Grey Warden, or you could tell him, no, I don't want to be a Grey Warden. It doesn't matter, you just are introduced to Duncan. And eventually your father tells you that go fetch your brother Tryon, I need to speak to him. You go fetch Tryon, again he is being an absolute ass to you, and afterwards he leaves. Balin tells you, oh sister or brother, I guess Tryon is actually conspiring to kill you. If you tell him no, that cannot be true, he goes like, I heard him myself, he wants to kill you, you have to take care. And if you actually say, oh my god, okay, I have to take care, this choice have a little bit of a consequences later, you could believe Balin and take care, or you could tell him, shut up Balin, he's my brother, he would never do that. Depending on this choice, there is a little bit of a consequence later. Afterwards, try and go meet your father, whatever. The day after, you go into the deep roads to retrieve a shield, an Idukan shield, one that belonged to your ancestors. You have to go into the deep roads to the Idukan Tig and fight some darkspawn, get the shield, and come back. You go there, you actually do what you're supposed to do. You fight darkspawn, you fight deep stalkers, you fight spiders, you fight all the nasty stuff you find in the deep roads, and eventually you reach the Idukan Tig. Once you are there, you find that the door is open and there are so many dead dwarves in there. Once you look, you realize that these people are carrying the insignia of your brother Tryon. Oh no, who killed these dwarves? Who are these dwarves? But there are no answers as everyone's dead. You continue solving a simple puzzle and you get the shield actually and leave. Once you leave, you reach the place that you were before, and depending on what you said to Balin earlier, if you said to Balin, "Shut up, Balin, my brother would never do that," you will find your brother Tryon dead on the ground. But if you told Tryon, "Oh my god, I have to be more alert," you go there, you find Tryon actually alive, but with his brother Balin, and Balin is like, "See, I told you she wants to kill you," and then Balin and you fight each other and you don't have any choice until you actually kill your brother. Eventually, one way or another, Tryon dies and everyone comes in, they see you over there, they accuse you of killing him. If you are innocent, if Tryon was actually dead there when you come there, no one believes you, everyone testifies against you, and you are actually thrown in jail. Once you are thrown in jail, afterwards, your punishment is to be kicked into the deep roads, try to fend yourself in the deep roads, and that's it. You are done, you are stricken from all the memories, no one knows who you are, your name's erased, and everything is gone. They eventually throw you into the deep roads and you kill some darkspawn here and there, you find some armor here, a weapon there, and make your way all the way until you actually find Duncan, who is actually doing some expedition in the deep roads, and he tells you, "Oh, Lady Idukan, what are you doing here?" You tell him the story, and eventually he offers you an option to come to the surface with him and become the Grey Warden. The next origin story is a human noble. You start as a Cousland, part from the Cousland family, who consists of your father Bryce, your mother, and your older brother Fergus. Your father is getting the troops ready to join King Kaelin in Ostagar for the fight against the Darkspawn. His quote-unquote friend Arl Howe is there to help him as well. He tells you to go and fetch your brother Fergus because he has to speak to him, and he tells you that you will not be joining your brother and himself into the ranks of the fighters. You are gonna stay with your mother to keep her safe. But before you go and try to find your brother Fergus, you find that you have a guest. Can you guess who this guest is? Surprise, surprise, it's Duncan of the Grey Wardens. He is here to try to find one of the soldiers that your father have to be recruited into the ranks of the Grey Wardens. You could tell him, "Take me instead," but he tells you that your father does not approve of this and he cannot take you against his will. Then you go on to try to find your brother, and on your way you find someone who tells you that your mother is asking you to go to the kitchen because your dog is making a mess there. You go there and you talk with the cook who really hates this dog. You go inside where the dog is and you find that he actually was able to find some giant rats in there. You get rid of the rats and get out and solve this problem. Then you go continue looking for your brother, and eventually you run into your mother who has a guest. This guest is her friend with her lady-in-waiting and her son, who then she introduces you to them, and eventually you could flirt with one of them, and you could actually after this conversation go back and flirt some more and invite them to your room, but it really doesn't matter because both are gonna die, so you could choose to, give one of them the best last night in this world. Anyway, you eventually go find your brother Fergus, who is talking to his wife and his son, and you tell him that your father is waiting for him. Time pass on and you go to sleep. You wake up alone or with some company, it doesn't matter. You get up to your dog listening to something outside of the room. You go outside and you realize that the whole castle is under attack. You find your mother, who helps you to fight through the area and to kill the Arlhow men, and then you realize that Arlhow is actually a traitor, that he betrayed your father, and that's why he asked your father to send his men so that the castle would be empty. You travel around the castle trying to find your father. You eventually find your brother's wife and his son murdered. You find your guest murdered, everyone's dead, and it's a really, really, really horrible situation. And what I love about this origin is it makes the time where you go and kill Arlhow is very personal there. It's really extremely personal there. You eventually find your father, who's hiding in a larder room in the kitchen where you fought the giant rats before. Duncan is there as well, and he promises your father that he is gonna take you and your mother out through the servants' exit. But your mother decides that she is gonna stay with your father, she's gonna stay with her husband, who she promised she's gonna stick with for the better and the worse. You eventually escape the estate with Duncan, you become a Grey Warden, and your mother and father perish in the meanwhile. The city elf origin is my absolutely favorite origin in the world. It's a really, really, really good story-wise, and it's actually the only origin that there might be slight changes on how you play depending on your gender or the gender that you choose for your playable character. A little bit of warning here, this might be a little bit triggering because it has some sort of hinting of abuse. So if you are a little bit not okay with this, I will leave a timestamp so you could just jump ahead and completely just, ignore this origin at all. As a city elf, you start in a place called the Alienage, which is basically the slums of Denerim, which is like the capital of Ferelden. You live there with your family, the Tabriz family, which is your last name as well, and it is a double wedding day, which means it is your wedding and it is also the wedding of your cousin Soris. You meet your other cousin, Shiani, and you talk a little bit with your father about your dead mother. He tells you a little bit about her. He gives you some sort of items that belong to her. When you get outside, you could actually talk to one of her friends and they could give you some money. And eventually you meet with your cousin Soris, who tells you, let's go meet our betrothed. You go and you find out that your betrothed is a nice looking person, and you could choose I don't want to get married, or you could be like, oh yeah, you're so pretty, let's get married. It's up to you, and it doesn't really affect the story whatsoever. When you're talking to your betrothed, a human crashes in and comes in oh, look, everything here. Oh, look at these ladies. Oh, let's have these ladies with us. Let's have some fun. Oh, look at this pretty lady here. And he is absolutely disgusting, him and his friends, but especially him. His name is Vaughn, and he is one of the noble's son. He comes into the alienate thinking the elves are his, he can do whatever he wants with them. But eventually your cousin Shiani that bonks him on the head with something, he passes out, and then his friend tells you that he is a noble son and what you did is not gonna pass easily. They carry him up like a sack of potatoes and leave the alienage. You continue on with your moving around and mingling with the people everyone's getting ready for the wedding. One of the people that you could actually mingle with at the start of this is a human just standing there looking around. He looked like he doesn't belong into the alienage. You could actually go and talk to him, and you will learn that his name is Duncan, and he is a Grey Warden here to recruit someone for the ranks of the Grey Wardens. If you talk a little bit with him, you could actually learn that your mother was a potential recruit for the Grey Wardens, but it never came through and she never became one. And eventually you go up the stage getting ready to be married, and this is when Vaughn comes back in with city guards, and he tells you that he will take the women, all the women in here, he's gonna take them because he is disgusting and horrible person. You could choose to be shut your hole, you ugly bastard, and he goes oh, we have a feisty one, and eventually he hits you in the face, takes you up to his estate. And not just you, he takes all the women who were on the stage. Eventually you wake up in a room with all the other women, and then he comes in with his friends and he's oh, which one are we gonna pick? And It's disgusting. It's really disgusting. Eventually, one of your companion of the girls is killed because she stands up to them, tells them to go away. We don't do this to us, and they kill her. Eventually, Saurus comes to you, gives you a sword, and you fight with Saurus your way out of the house. If you chose your gender in the game to be a male, this part is a little bit different, because if you are a male, you did not get kidnapped by Vaughn, you were actually left out. So you as a male would break into the estate with your cousin Saurus. But if you are a female, you are going to break out of the estate with your cousin Saurus. So that's the only difference that is actually depending on what gender you picked for your character. And because I picked a female, so we are gonna go with this part of the story. With the help of Saurus, you reach the room where Vaughn is, and you can find your cousin Shiani lay on the ground. She is absolutely tired, she is really sad and crying, and Vaughn and his friends are just standing on top of her, which is like absolutely horrible. You tell him, oh my god, you are just dead, and he says, well, I could give you some money if you want to, but let's just leave the women here, take the 40 gold and leave. So if you are a horrible person and decide to take the money and leave, I don't know how you will live with yourself, but if you do that, there are two outcomes coming out of it. The guards outside could actually confiscate the 40 gold out of you, which is kind of like you kind of deserve it, or you could hide them somewhere so the guards wouldn't see it. Anyway, if you're a normal person, you would go like Vaughn, I am going to enjoy cutting you in half, and you actually fight him and kill him. And you try to tell Shiani, come on Shiani, it's okay. She wakes up, she asks you, did you kill them? And you will reply with, like dogs, Shiani.
You killed them, didn't you? You killed them all? Good. Good.
Freaking epic. I love the city elf origin. Eventually you get out, you leave the estate, you go back to the alienage, and surprise, surprise, the guards are here asking what the hell happened, who killed this guy, and this, and you have one of three choices. You could stay silent, which probably is really bad because the guards are gonna raise the alienage looking for who did this. You could actually say that you and Saurus did it, which means that the blame is gonna be divided on both you and Saurus, or you could say I did it on my own. They ask you, okay, so why are you doing this on your own? How could you do this on your own? And this is when Duncan steps in and tells you that he is actually recruiting, and he decides that he is going to conscript you, so now they cannot actually apprehend you and take you to jail. Not having any other choice, you agree with Duncan and you say, okay, you cannot touch me now, guard, just move on, and you go with Duncan and you become a Grey Warden. Next on the list we go to the Dalish. The Dalish are elven people who decided to stay away from civilization and become nomads in the forest and on the roads, just trying to keep the old ways of the elves alive, trying to keep their language alive. They're basically hermits, just living away from civilizations. You are one of the Dalish hunters. You are hunting the woods with your buddy Tamlin. Tamlin, my first BioWare heartbreak ever. And it's like really BioWare reached into my heart and squeezed it and then like destroyed it. And then later on, if you play as Dalish, you could actually see Tamlin again because, you know, he comes back. But it's really heartbreaking when it does. So you could kind of guess that Tamlin was my first heartbreak. I mean, it's fine, it's fine, but I digress. Once you're hunting, you run across some humans who are fleeing from something. You tell them, what are you doing here? You shouldn't be here. They're really afraid. They tell you that they ran into a cave which had some demons in it, and they show you an artifact with some elvish writing on it. Tamlin then asks you what do you want to do with them. Here you have a choice. It doesn't matter much, but you could tell him let's kill the humans, or you could tell him just let them go, they are not worth it. Eventually, Tamlin is like, let's go to this cave, let's discover it. You could go like, oh, of course, let's go. Or you could tell him, come on, Tamlin, we should go back to the camp first, but it doesn't matter. You go to the cave, you explore the cave. Once you're inside, you find some spiders, some traps here and there. Eventually, you find some walking corpses that start to attack you. You go into a room, you find a mirror. And now, with like retrospect, you know that this is an illusion, but you didn't know what this is back then. So you find a mirror, you approach this mirror with Tamlin, and he tells you that he can see something moving inside. When he focuses into the mirror, he can actually see something that is looking towards him. He describes the place to be dark and black and weird, and this thing that sees him, once it sees Tamlin cannot look away. Eventually the mirror kind of like explodes, sending you backwards. You open your eyes and there's like a human trying to saying, stay with me, stay with me. Eventually you wake up in the camp, you ask around what's happening. They tell you that there's some human who found you alone without Tamlin, and he brought you here. You ask who this human is, you learn that his name is Duncan of the Grey Wardens. The keeper tells you that she is trying to keep you alive with her magic. It's an old spell, but she knows how to do this. And then she forms a party to go and find Tamlin, to go back to the cave and find Tamlin. You also learn that Duncan of the Grey Warden is at the cave as well, so you go there, maybe he knows something. You go back to the area where the cave is, and you are surprised by some darkspawn. Meryl, who is the keeper's first, who came along with you, asks you, are these darkspawn? But you have no idea what that darkspawn is. Meryl is really keen on learning what this is all about, but she is actually more interested in finding Tamlin, of course. Eventually you get into the cave, you find lots and lots of dead darkspawn inside, you keep fighting your way in until you get into the same room that had the mirror in it. You find Duncan just standing there. He asks you, you killed all the darkspawn in your own, and he says, I was just busy killing some of my own. And eventually he tells you that the mirror is what caused the sickness that you're currently feeling, and it's currently growing into you, and his duty is to break this mirror. Once he breaks the mirror, you tell them, but the keeper wanted to study the mirror, why did you break it? And he says it's his duty, this was a blighted artifact that had to be destroyed. Eventually you go back to the camp, and you learn in the camp that you are sick and you cannot be healed, and the only cure to your sickness is held in the hands of the Grey Warden Duncan. He tells you that the only cure is to be a Grey Warden. There is no escape. If you do not become a Grey Warden, you die. It doesn't matter how much you protest, how much you say I don't want to go, no matter how much you say I don't want to leave the camp. Eventually you attend the funeral for Tamlin and leave the camp with Duncan the Grey Warden to become a Grey Warden yourself. On our last origin, we go to the Circle of Magi. We get the mage origin. This is the only origin that actually depends on your class and not your race, because it doesn't matter if you're a human or an elf. If you're a mage, you start at the circle. Anyway, in the circle you start as an apprentice who is about to take their harrowing. The harrowing is some sort of a test that all mages have to go through in order to prove that they are strong enough to resist the temptation of being possessed by demons. You are being sent into the Fade willy-nilly with nothing on you. You go in there and you fight some demons, you meet some spirits, you try to convince said spirits to help you. One of them might be able to give you a weapon, the other could help your acquaintance who is named Mouse, who is just a mouse that shapeshifts into a human and tells you that his story was that he was an apprentice one day, but he failed in his harrowing and the Templars killed his physical body outside of the Fade, but his spirit lingered in the Fade and got turned into a mouse, forever wandering the Fade, have nowhere to go. Eventually you could actually help him to be able to shapeshift into a bear and help you fight in your test. Eventually you go fight a rage demon with the help of Mouse, who is now a bear, and the rage demon tells you that Mouse have been helping the demon by luring unsuspectable apprentices who are trying to get their harrowing and failing it, and the rage demon just devours their spirits or whatever. So you fight the demon, you kill the demon, and Mouse is like, oh, I cannot believe we made it, oh, I cannot believe we killed the demon. And he's like all sweet and nice to you and telling you, oh, how I would love to see the world outside. You know, I know a way of how to get outside without the Templar noticing. You could actually help me ride into your body so I could see the outside world. And your mage is like, hold on a second. I'm starting to feel that the rage demon was not the test, and you are the test, and you are the one who's trying to tempt me. And he goes like, you got me, you sneaky one. And then he turns into a huge ass pride demon and tell you that congratulations, you succeeded in your harrowing. And then you are cast outside of the Fade. Everyone is congratulating you into being a mage now instead of just an apprentice. You succeeded in your harrowing, you are officially a mage, and everyone is clapping and ta-da! I'm joking, of course, it's not a tada, it's never a tada in the circle of magi. Afterwards, you rest after your harrowing and you wake up to your very dear friend Joanne, who tells you that he is so happy that you succeeded in your harrowing, that you are now a mage, and he is kind of jealous of you because he's been apprentice for far way longer than you are, and he actually suspects he will never be a mage because he thinks everyone thinks he's not strong enough to pass the harrowing. And he actually tells you that he is in fear that they turn him into a tranquil. Anyway, he tells you that you have to go meet Irving, the Grand Enchanter Irving, who is like the head mage in this tower. And you go there and you find that Irving, along with Gregor, who is like the head Templar of the Circle Tower, which is basically the magic police, they are arguing about something, and there is a new face just standing next to them. They introduced a new face saying, this is Duncan of the Grey Wardens. He is here to recruit some mages to the ranks of the army that is helping the army to fight the Darkspawn. Irving tells you to accompany Duncan to his rooms, and on your way to his room you could speak with Duncan, learn what's going on. He tells you about the Darkspawn, he tells you about the war, he tells you about everything that's happening outside, and eventually you tell him, okay, thank you, bye, and you leave. You find Joan at the entrance of his room telling you, come on, I need to talk to you about something. He takes you to the chapel, and there you find a chantry acolyte named Lily. He introduced her as his lover, but it is actually really forbidden for mages to, you know, do the thing, especially with chantry sisters or chantry acolytes, but they are hiding the relationship. Joan tells you that he has a plan to escape the Circle Tower by destroying his phylactery. Phylactery is basically that when you first come to the circle, the Templars take some blood of you, put them in some magical bottle, and this magical bottle can be used to track where you are. So it's basically a leash around the mage's collars. So he thinks that he knows a way to destroy his phylactery and then escape, and this way the Templars will never be able to pinpoint where he is exactly. You have two choices here. You could either tell him, of course, Joanne, let's get to it, we can do it, or you could tell him, okay, I will think about it, and meanwhile you go to Irving and tell him what's going on. In this playthrough, I did go to Irving and told him what's going on. And Irving was like, okay, so Lily is helping him, but if he actually gets turned into a tranquil, Lily will just come out of it with nothing to do. But she actually did a mistake. She did something wrong against the rule, just as Joanne did. And it's not fair for only Joanne to be punished. Lily should be punished too. And he advises you to work with them, just follow the orders, and once you leave the room where the phylactery is, he will be there with the Templars to tell everyone that it was not only Joanne, it was not only the mage who did a mistake, but the chantry acolyte did a mistake as well. In Irving's head, the Joanne's gonna turn into a tranquil no matter what. But Lily, who actually contributed to this scheme will come out of it with no punishment whatsoever, and he thinks that this is not fair. Once you go tell Joanne, okay, let's go, he tells you, all right, we need a rod of fire. To get it, you have to get it from the tranquils upstairs. It sends you on a short, small quest where you have to kill some spiders. So you would have a favor with one of the Grand Enchanters. The Grand Enchanter gives you the favor that eventually let the Tranquil give you the rod. You take the rod, go back to Joanne and Lily. You make your way until the repository. You try to use the rod on the door, but the door isn't a magical one. It's actually anti-magic. You cannot use any magic around this door. So you'll have to find another way into the room. You go through some other rooms. You kill some sentinels there to protect the area, and eventually you make your way all the way to the phylactery room. Joanne holds his phylactery in his hand and lets it drop to the ground, and it breaks, and he finally thinks that he is free. Once you leave the room, you find that Irving and the Templar Gregoire is there, and he says, so a chantry acolyte and an apprentice working together against the rules of the chantry, this cannot be. He tries to apprehend Lily. Joanne goes like, no, 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 don't touch her, and guess what? He was a blood mage all along. He actually used blood magic to try to subdue the Templar, and he turns to Lily, come on Lily, it's escape. She sees that he was actually a blood magic. She tells him, stay away from me. Joanne runs away, broken-hearted idiot, runs away, and you think, oh, I guess I will never see Joanne again. Eventually afterward, Gregoire is really angry at you, but Irving steps in and say, come on, I know what she was doing. I actually told her to go on and follow their plan in order to catch them in the act. Gregoire is absolutely angry at you, and he doesn't know what to do with you. That's when the Grey Warden Duncan steps in and say, you know, we do not just recruit for the army, we are actually recruiting for the Grey Warden ranks. And from what I saw, and from what Irving told me about the harrowing of this mage, this is a very capable mage. I will take her to the ranks of the Grey Warden. And Gregoire is like, no, but it can't be, no, but Duncan is like, I'm taking her, she's a Grey Warden now. And eventually you travel south to Ostagar with Duncan to continue the game. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. I also enjoyed playing all the origins for the clips here. Please, if you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, you know, the yada yada. I also stream on Twitch on Fridays and Monday at 7 p.m. Cairo time, which is GMT +2. I have a Discord. I also have merch in the descriptions down below, so feel free to use all these links. And thank you again for listening, and see you next week for part 2, where I continue the journey of the warden to stop the blights and defeat the darkspawn.